Welcome back, everyone, and it's time to probably reflect on last night's performance. A game of two halves, but let's celebrate the point that we did get and the hard work and effort that went into the second half to actually rescue that point. So, about 7 o'clock last night, I opened the team sheet. I wasn't fortunate enough to go to the game yesterday, purely because of family commitments, and I opened up Twitter and had a look at the starting lineup, and we had 5 changes, and probably the players you wouldn't most expect to come out of the squad, but it was obvious that Paul Hurst wanted to challenge Brentford's formation by not playing wingers last night. So there was a bit of hoofball in the first half, and it wasn't very effective. And to be honest, the way we played in the first half was worse than how we played against Hull on Saturday, and that was terrible. So I can forgive anyone for thinking at half time there is no way that we're going to stay in this league if we keep playing like this. The thing is, come half time, you know, when you start with the likes of Jordan Spence at right back and no wingers, you kind of think, oh, where's our outlet going to come from? Well, for me, Jordan Spence is stealing a living as a professional footballer, and it's not a personal attack or anything. It's just he's never ever done anything of credit for this squad, and unfortunately I can't see him having a future past this season with Ipswich Town. I see that for a number of players, but him especially. But that's just my point of view. Okay, so I'm not, attacking the player or anything like that. It's just my point of view. But he needed to come off at half time, and he should, to be honest, he shouldn't have been involved in the last 3 games. Donasian should have been picked, and it was clear to see his second half performance at right back was better than all of Spencer's performances in the last 3 games. So that being said, hopefully come Saturday we don't have to argue about that anymore. The 2 changes at half time with John Nolan and Gwen Edwards coming on. Now, there was a lot of people confused as to why Gwen Edwards was excluded from the squad in the first place. Now, my idea with that is that Paul Hurst is trying to identify what our strengths and weaknesses are. And given that we've played, 9 games now, you'd think a manager would know that Gwen's definitely our strongest player. It may or may not be that case, but he took him off in the whole game, and I wondered whether it may be him with the mystery injury, but obviously it was John Walters from the weekend. So given the situation, it was hard for me to understand why he excluded Gwen Edwards, because when he did come on, him and John Nolan played in these kind of free roles. So we were still playing very much to our game plan, but we were free of positioning and we were chasing down the ball, and I think that was quite effective from us. We put Brentford under pressure, and without looking at the stats, I could probably tell you that their goalkeeper had more touches than anyone on the pitch last night. So it does show that the pressure was in the right areas and we were pushing on. And to be honest, apart from the goal, which I would say was lucky, to be honest, and pressure in and around the box, and possibly two saves in Dean Gherkin, I'd say that Town were quite comfortable at the back. I use that loosely. But given the situation, I think we've done well to get a point. We did have chances to score, but it's just capitalising on those chances, to be honest, and making the best of what we have. Like Caden Jackson, like that goal would have come from nothing. Chalaba's cross came over and he had a glance and header. Can we say that the ball was in the box? at any point in that game to snatch. I know Jackson had the overhead kick from the corner, and obviously the chance towards the end which he skied over, but can we really say that during the match we actually had the ball on the floor in the area? And I think that's what our problem is. In the first half you could see it, our confidence on the ball was just completely shot. I think we had like 59% pass success rate, which is absolutely horrifying in the Championship. And a stat like that, pass completion rate is, one of the most important things. If you can't complete a pass, what can you do? So that was worrying. Come second half, we're a completely different side, and you've got to take your hat off to the players. They came out with a completely different work ethic, and worked so hard for the actual result. So, given that we got ourselves back into the game, and got that result in the end, I think we're in good stead to push on and get something against Bolton on Saturday. And I think we might actually get our first win of the season. But I've been saying that for every game so far, and obviously you can only say it so much, you can only be behind the boys so much, but hopefully in the end it will actually pay off. And at this moment in time, it's hard to see where the win's going to come from. But last night we played against Brentford, who are if not one of the top sides in this league this season, and they've gone away to places and they've got results and they've got players that can deliver, and they were in the same position as us last season, down the bottom, in the exact same position. And that's what happens when teams gel and time is given to the right people. And Dean Smith's done a fantastic job for Brentford, so hopefully Paul Hurst could emulate that in some way for Ipswich Town. So just to reflect on one player last night, or maybe two, I'll start with the one that surprised me as being involved last night. Grant Ward came back into the squad last night, and first half was pretty lacklustre. The obvious problem was that the ball wasn't being played around the midfield, so we were kind of skipping his section of the pitch out, kind of thing, and it was a bit of a chase game for him first half. A few balls were passed to him, and he didn't get the right touch, or he wasn't ready to receive it. Second half, he came out completely differently, and he was linking up well with John Nolan. Now, that's where I think we could be more effective in the middle, like of midfield. And that's just behind a striker, we could be a bit more effective. Now, John Nolan's kind of played there most of the season, but I feel he'd be better if he had someone there with him. Now, that may be a big ask, obviously, given formations and things like that. But maybe if we could play, like a 4-5-1 kind of situation, but with two attacking midfielders supporting a striker, then I think we could be more effective going forward. And I think that would suit Grant Ward, and especially John Nolan. But that's one thing we wouldn't have expected to see, those two playing together in that kind of formation. So praise for Grant Ward, because I know he did get the man of the match. I think he got the corporate man of the match. But for me, my man of the match was the goal scorer, and that was Caden Jackson. And his effort and determination to chase down every ball last night, to get his head on the end of that goal, to create that goal. His chances, he hit the crossbar, and he made efforts, and he gave us an outlet last night, and that's something that we haven't had all season so far, is an actual outlet to rely on. We've got Gwion Edwards, who's popped up with a goal now and again, but he's not someone we want to rely on to score goals. We want him to deliver those goals and give us something on the wings. So for Caden Jackson to get his first league goal, obviously he has scored in the Cup, but his first clean league goal in the Championship, coming up from League 2, League 1 essentially, but League 2 is where he played last season, it will be a massive confidence boost for him. And obviously going forward, if he could emulate that form in potentially on Saturday or in the future, then we've got a hell of a striker on our hands, and that probably justifies the 1 million price tag that we paid, over 1 million that we paid for him. So yeah, still early doors. I'm not saying one goal's worth 1 million, but essentially that goal would lead to more chances and more confidence going forward. And obviously, having not played in the Championship before, is very important to get as much confidence as you can to push forward as a player. And I think that is the message that would relate to most of the squad at the moment. There are a lot of players that haven't played in this league before, and given time and given the opportunity to perform, they will come good in the end. And that's the best part about it. If you look at teams like Brentford last season, had all these new players, and let's take Ollie Watkins for example, and Neil Maupay and Sawyers and goalkeeper Bentley and Chris Memphin at the back. All of these players have come from absolutely nowhere. They've come from nowhere, and they've worked for their opportunity, and that's what happens. You work for it, and you suddenly become these brilliant players. You don't suddenly become brilliant players, but given opportunities, you do become those players. And essentially, that is how the football pyramid should work. It shouldn't. You start at the top and go down, because that's how youth academies work now. You start at the top and you dissipate down to the lower leagues, and eventually you don't have a career at all. You start at the bottom and work your way up, and that should be the message to all youngsters nowadays. Essentially, if you go up to a Championship club, you will have to step down to gain progress, and we see that with players like Chalobah and Pennington coming down from the Premiership. But their aim should be to play in the Premier League, and their performances should show Premier League quality. And I definitely see that in Pennington, and Chalobah obviously set up the goal last night. But there are patches at the moment that need to be filled with both players. So pushing forward, hopefully those players will come good, and that's what we've just got to remind ourselves, that we are essentially a team that's in nursery, and we're not quite into the primary school stage yet. And once we're past that, then we can start expecting performances from our players. But at the end of the day, nothing beats the fact that they are professional footballers, and they're put onto that pitch to do one thing, and that's to win the game. So hopefully on Saturday we can actually get our first 3 points of the season. Now it's important to remember, obviously last night meant a lot to the Beattie family, and obviously the sad passing of Kevin Beattie over the weekend. Kevin was only 64 and was held at high esteem by Ipswich Town Football Club and all of its fans. And I just want to send my condolences out to the family. For me, I never saw Kevin play. I'm not going to say that I did, but he did mean a lot to me, and I respected the bloke, because growing up and listening to BBC Radio Suffolk and listening to all my family and listening to everyone, I'd always say about the great cup sides and 78 and 81 and the presence of players such as Kevin Beattie and what they brought to the club. And even my granddad would talk about Kevin Beattie and how he'd drink with him down the social. And it's things like that. It's memories like that, and a player he held Ipswich at such high esteem, and he loved the town and he loved the club, and that's what you want from every player, is someone who invests themselves in the club and the town. And Kevin Beattie was the absolute living example of someone who does exactly that. So hopefully on Saturday we can get a few more chances going for Kevin. Given Tuesday night came quite quick, obviously still a lot for people to take on, but I do send out my condolences to the family, and and hopefully Kevin has had the send-off that he deserved.